Shall we get started, Jen?
We shall.
Great. I'm Beth Ann Locke, and I'm been a fundraiser for 28 years and been working as the fundraiser coach, helping fundraisers and nonprofit leaders just be better with their donors, be able to make more connections, have more authentic connections, and raise more money for their nonprofits. There are donors who just want to give to make a change in the world, and sometimes we're not connecting with them. So it's one reason I'm so excited to be with you, Jen.
I have basically admired Beth since the beginning of when I can remember. And I think Beth has always, for me, been a really a moment. I associate Beth with moments of gratitude and moments of real opportunities to explore and discuss impact with donors. So I've always looked to Beth for that, and I'm very honored and pleased to be asked to be part of this session today. So I'm here in Ontario, Canada, with my sweet little puppy. If you can identify the puppy in the myriad of toys, then congratulations. I'm sometimes confused. Where does the puppy start and where do the toys begin? But that's what we're doing. And I'm really happy to be here and just chat gratitude with you guys. We have some exercises, we have some pieces that we want you to be working on and thinking about. And yeah, I'm excited to jump in.
Great. Jen is with the Agents of Good, which is an amazing firm. If you want to see some fantastic examples of direct mail impact reports, legacy, they do everything with a heart. And Jen and I used to be sort of the open-hearted gals, sharing that kind of, spreading our EI, I guess, everywhere we could. And we truly believe that donors want to be speaking with you in donor language and however they speak. We don't need to be formal. We don't need to necessarily be restrained. We want to have them connecting with the thing they want to do. So just before we start, I'm going to acknowledge I'm here in Vancouver, BC, and I want to acknowledge the land that we're on that was unceded. So this land in BC was not given through a treaty or a war. It was just sort of taken. And so as my small step in acknowledging privilege and colonialism, I'm on the land of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh, and I have the privilege of living, working, playing here. And I'd love you to explore the land that you're on. You can go to native-land.ca and see whose land from Turtle Island that you are on. So thank
And
you.
I'm coming to you from the Haldeman Tract, which is 6 miles on either side of the Grand River in southern Ontario, which is a highly contested and also wonderfully abundant space. So I'm grateful to be on this land, and I'm grateful for those who came before us, who are able to identify the history and the complex relations that we have. So I'm continuing to learn. So thank you, Beth, for that.
You're welcome. So Jen and I were, when we kind of sat down to talk about, I wanted to be able to serve readers to my newsletter better. How can we do that? And I talked to John Lepp the other week about direct mail, but one thing that you, Jen, and I really feel strongly about is there's a lot of asking, and not so much good thanking. We really talked about a better thanking experience, didn't we, Jen?
We did, yes. And I think one of the great ways to start with a good thanking experience is to put all of you who are here with us to the test. So I would like everyone to take out your phones or use your whatever chat version you use, and encourage you to send a thank you text to someone. So whoever jumps into your mind when you are ready, when you think about I'd like to send a thank you text, or I'd like to connect with someone, send a message to someone to thank them for something, whether it's a colleague or a family member or a friend. Just take a minute to grab your phone and thank someone. Thank someone for whatever that is, but just take a second to do that. And that will be an exercise that we will connect with and come back to. But I'm going to do it too.
Me too. I'm texting someone. You know, maybe you're thinking of something, somebody did a favor for you, or they've been, you know, a long time confidant, or maybe it's the neighbor did something kind for you and you just want to send an extra thank you. You know, sometimes we're very grateful, but we don't always put it into words. This is kind of the boring part for you as we read. Jen
Okay,
and
what's happening in the chat?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's
amazing. Nice. Okay, so when we'll give some of you who are probably writing novels, and we'll continue to go. So like if you're not done with this exercise, then recognize that you might have more to say. But if you look at the pieces that you've just sent, probably the message that you sent was probably quite recent. It was quite specific. It was probably something that was a personal connection between you and the person that you're connecting to. It was probably like a personal shared experience, and it might have been a little or a lot awkward. Like reaching out to someone to say, hey, thanks for doing this, feels a little awkward because you're a little vulnerable. And when you reach out to someone to acknowledge them and say, I see you and I'm grateful, it's a little awkward. But it also probably felt good for you to send. And hopefully it will feel good to receive. And so we're going to park that and come back to it as a part of our exercise today. But the moment of reaching out to someone to say thank you probably has some of the components, or maybe all of the components, that you'll need for a good thank you experience. One
thing I was going to say, Jen, is you kind of put the intention in your mind. You're like, oh, okay, I'm going to do this. So you immediately maybe thought who and what. And there was a moment where you're like, oh, I really loved that. Like, that's the thing I sent to you was, I really love that about you. And I really appreciate that. And that's kind of what we're thinking about when we do a text. We have a great immediacy because we're texting someone we know well, usually.
Yeah. Yes. And it probably has a little bit of a component of like, there's a bit of a story here. Like, hey, thanks for helping me out while I was doing this. Like there's a human story. And it also probably promises something else, like, hey, I'll catch up with you later, or like, look forward to seeing you later. Like there's some components to a good thank you text that will be relevant to everything we're going to talk about today.
Great. So hopefully everybody's had a little chance to get that done. All right. I'll share my screen again. No, I think you're going to tell us the great things about a thank you letter. Is that right?
Well, yeah, because the great things about a thank you letter have all the components that we just discussed. And one of the things that Beth and I are going to put into at the end of this presentation, we'll share the slide deck with everyone. And there's a bit of a thank you letter checklist that we put together for you, which includes, opening up with a personal welcome, referencing recency and specifically, talking about the things that you've accomplished or done together, making a promise. Like these are all the little tiny pieces that you probably see, even in a very short text. And that's the kind of anatomy of a thank you checklist. Like that's the anatomy of a good thank you. And it can be as brief as a text, or it can be a email, it can be a letter, it can be a bunch of things, but it definitely hits a few of the highlights of a really good and earnest and sincere thank you. It really does make a difference. It really does make a difference. Oh, what's Dale saying? Amazing donor love team, one staff. Oh, yay. That's amazing. That's so great to hear.
Oh, that's fantastic, Dale.
Yes.
Can I let you in on one of my pet peeves of thank you letters?
Yes.
So first of all, I think a lot of people write their thank you letters the way people have been doing it sort of from forever. And that whole thank you for your $100 gift. First of all, most donors are going to remember how much they gave you. You don't need to remind them. And they sent the money in to make an impact. So I suggest putting what I call housekeeping down in like paragraph 3 and start with the impact. Yes. Exactly right. So you usually told them what you were going to spend the money on. You did an appeal, you had a face-to-face ask, maybe you were at a gala. And so people are saying, if I send in this gift, X impact's going to happen. And that's what I would love to have you open your letters with.
And one of the pieces that we'll put into the thank you letter checklist at the end is like, never start with on behalf of. On behalf of means you're speaking for someone else. Like, I'm speaking for me, maybe for my puppy, I'll speak for them, they're exhausted. But like, we can't speak on behalf, like, who feels comfortable doing that? I don't speak on behalf of anyone. So many thank you letters start with on behalf of, and if you just delete that, you'll be starting with the actual sentiment that you intend, which is, and to speak to what you were exactly just saying, Beth, I'm not thanking you for your gift. I'm thanking you for you. Yes. So one of the big shifts that I've made in my thinking as it relates to thank you letters, but also as it relates to all the content that I create for donors, is I'm not thanking you for the like transactional tax receivable gift. I'm thanking you for your kindness. I'm thanking you for your generosity. I'm thanking you for your love of animals. I'm thanking you for your compassion for others. I'm thanking you for you railing against the patriarchy or railing against people who are bulldozing our environments. I'm thanking someone for their identity, not for their transaction. And that changes the way you structure all of those communications, because it's not about what they did, it's about who they are.
That's right. Early in my career, when I had these amazing mail merge functions, if the gift was above a certain amount, I would add the word generous, your generous gift of 500 or your, and one of the things I've learned from Jen Shang and donor psychology is that just what you said, we don't want to thank people. The generousness is not the size of the gift. The generous is the size of their heart in giving in the first place. So it's an important shift that you start to think of. And we do say, our major gifts start at X, and we have a way of thinking internally about these donors are sort of worth more because there's a higher ROI. But that is not how we want to communicate with donors. It's not really how we want to think about any of our donors. But we sometimes get into that space when it comes to fundraising and thanking. So stop.
Well, this is where I will bow to the altar of the goddess who we miss, Simone Joyeux, who used to say, if you're thinking about major donors, that's great. Would you ever call someone a minor donor?
That's right.
Because everyone who's giving what they can because they care about you and they want to help, they're not a minor donor. That might be a way more significant gift than the Rockefeller who has their name on the side of the building. Like, someone who's giving you what they can in their monthly budget to make sure that your food bank is sustainable, that your women's shelter stays open, that the pets in your community are taken care of. Like, that's a major gift to them. So every gift is a major gift to the person who's giving it.
Yeah.
Simone.
I know. One thing I like people to think about is when you're segmenting donors to call, like if you're going to do a thankathon or you're going to do some just additional love, is it's easy to first think of course, we're going to ask all of our major donors. Your major donors often get a lot of attention. They might get invited to a stewardship thing that you don't do for lower. I'd love you to think about segmenting by loyalty. So how many years have they given? So if you have a long time organization, you might pull a list of people who've given 18 out of 20 years or 13 out of 15. They may have skipped a year for some reason. So don't just get consecutive giving over 15 years, you're going to lose a lot of people. And also, I love to look at people who've maybe gave to past campaigns and haven't given recently. Let them know how, back in, the 90s, when you gave to the campaign, X was happening, and that path brought us to where we are now. And where we are now is, X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. And just thinking of donors differently. So it's not just by dollar money, it's by maybe how they came to you, maybe how they, not just the length, but the type of giving. We often, say goodbye to our board members or say goodbye to our early leaders or early donors. Yeah. And
another one, like I have found, there's this little secret playground that I've just loved being in, Beth, which I told you about when we chatted about this call. People who RSVP no to your events or to your gala or to your, like, anybody who says, hey, thank you for the invitation, but I can't make it. They're telling you a story about themselves that you need to listen to.
mm-hmm.
And a lot of the work that I've been doing on the event side over the last number of years have been, since COVID, have been people who are like, environmental organizations who say, hey, come with us to the local nature reserve and we'll count the number of orchids and we'll see how many frogs we can find and we'll identify different species. And some people will be there enthusiastically with their binoculars. That's usually me, sidebar, or my mother. But there's also people who are like, I wish I could be there, but I can't. Thank you for the invitation. Don't dismiss that as like, oh, that's just a no. That's someone who's telling you, I would love to be there, but I can't. So how hard is it after the event to send a very quick email or postcard or card to people to say, hey, here's the event we had. We found 16 different kinds of orchids. We saw 40 new species of frogs. You were there with us in spirit. Thank you for your kindness and caring. And that's an easy thing to do for someone who has raised their hand. Like RSVP no people, I'm on their team.
Yeah, because the other option is not telling you at all.
They'll ignore you. They'll just be
That's
like,
right.
I don't care. I'm not going to show up. But someone who says, oh, thank you for the invitation, I'm not going to be there. That's a database cue. They're telling you something. They're telling you a story.
That's why as a fundraiser, just taking some images, even if they're sort of not, website worthy, but at things like that will really help you be able to say, see, I can put you there. I love different ways we can put the donor there when they can't be there. And I'll just say for things like stewardship events, I used to do them sort of in a after work time because most donors were working. But since a lot of the donors who are older, some of them can't drive at night, I've moved them earlier because actually working donors that are high enough up will be able to get off work to be able, at 4 o'clock to be able to come to something. So just thinking about how we can engage donors, where they are, how they are. And like we've talked about, our donors already have something to tell us, right? It's whether we are ready to hear that. They're already telling us.
Yes.
So I'm just going to pull up well, we were going to talk more about thank yous, but I don't want to run over and get the results if anybody wants to share their texting results.
Did anybody get a text result? Did anybody get a response back?
We love to hear those. I forgot how to share my screen. There we go. No? Okay. All right. That's okay. It might be too personal.
And we can come back to it at the end.
That's right.
It might be too early. People might be like, what's happening here? Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you sometimes, Jen, this was my fundraising life.
Oh.
We invest in the ask, we ask. We've got I don't know, this time of year, there's a letter going out. Somebody's going to hang on to Giving Tuesday. There's going to be something year end. And every once in a while we get a thank you, and maybe the annual report we send out as the impact report. And it can feel like this. And actually it can feel like this a little bit to the donors, but in the asking way, that we're not really engaging with them. And so I've shared with clients, and also I did this for a board that I'm on, this should be a joyful cycle. And, this is typically what we talk about in fundraising. We identify donors, or they self-identify, we involve them, or they get involved, or people call people forward, we cultivate, and then we have an ask. But I want you to understand how tiny that ask is. It's just a moment in time. And all of our other bubbles or areas of work, thanking, reporting, they are at least as important as the cultivation, identification, involvement, because donors give a gift. And the top three things are, did they get it? If they're making a credit card gift, there's usually an automatic response. Please take a look at that. Is it warm? Or was it written by Blackbot? I just want to know. Make it warm, make it as good as a thank you. It's not a report back. It's not just a receipt. Yes, we received your money. You want it to be warm and engaging, speaking back to donors. And are you reporting back? I think, so did you get my gift? Was it needed? And how is it used? Those are the three things that donors want to know. And thanking and reporting can cover so much of that. And this is one of the ways we really feel like nonprofits are falling down in terms of engaging donors.
Well, and a good impact report does all of those things. Like if you're reporting back to someone to say, here's the need that we had, here's how you helped us, here's what we're doing next, that can come across as a very sort of open-ended, it's almost like a conversation starter. You're inviting someone to say, like, here's what we've done. Would you like to know more? And we've found that with the cadence of kind of appeals, newsletters, impact reports, or annual reports, sometimes people give the biggest gifts to the annual report or the newsletter because they're like, I see my gifts in action. I understand the difference I've made, and I'm really happy to make more of this happen now. We just had an example 2 days ago from a client who sent out a newsletter it was the end of a camp season. So they're a camp for, kids and families impacted by cancer. They sent this email or sent this newsletter out to everyone to say, here's amazing things you made possible. And they had someone phone in, like, I didn't even have my seed sample yet. And someone phoned in to say, I just received this piece. It's amazing. I'd like to give $1,000. Can you take my gift right now? Because that piece did the asking, thanking, and reporting back. And people they didn't feel pressured, or they didn't feel like, oh, I have to give, or like, oh, this is the 16th request I've got from this person. It was like, oh, this like meets all my needs. And it's so rewarding when that happens, right?
Yes, because donors give to make change or to keep change from happening, like paving the environment. And we often get hung up on the dollars. I mean, we've talked about this, Jen. We're measured as fundraisers by the dollars we bring in, but really what the work we're doing is connecting to people and showing them how they can make impact, which isn't usually measured at all. Some people do donor satisfaction. And so we can get stuck as, in a workaday world of, this donor is more important. I got to make sure I do that. More asking. We got to hire someone to help us with the asking. And in fact, what I think donors really crave is a deep connection to the organization and something that's authentic. You can speak to that more, Jen.
Well, and again, I think that's part of the transaction part, right? Like we're thanking the donor for their gift as opposed to thanking them for who they are.
Yeah.
And for what they value and for what matters to them and why they care. And so every time, and this has been a shift in my own mindset over the last number of years, that like when I sit down and every appeal that we do, so when we work on a campaign, Agents of Good will help you with your campaigns. Part of our promise is that we'll also develop a thank you note email piece, because it should be specific and intentional and deliberate. And I'm not thanking people for their gift. I'm thanking them for their kindness, their generosity, their compassion, their intention, thanking them for who they are, as opposed to thanking them for what they've done. And once you kind of have this little bit of a mind shift around like, wait a minute, I'm not thanking someone for what they've done. I'm thanking them for who they are. It changes so much. And because my very specific part of the fundraising world is annual giving and legacy giving, thanking people for what they care about the most and thanking people for the values that they want to endure is incredibly emotional, impactful, and it makes it's a different way of having it. It's a different way of even starting a conversation. When I'm starting a conversation saying, I'm not thanking you for your donation, I'm thanking you for who you are, like your brain switches.
Yeah. So one reason I wanted to do, this kind of thing before the end of the year, have this talk with Jen, is because first of all, we believe that gratitude and reporting are kind of sometimes the afterthought, but we believe there's a lot you can do now to be able to remind people, especially you might be in an office that doesn't appreciate appreciation as much as we do and doesn't invest in that. And one thank you letter is good enough. It's like a transaction. We need to get a thank you letter out. So you're talking about a task instead of building a relationship. And really, I believe that when a donor gives, they've already extended their hand in friendship or partnership with you, and they are ready to do more. But if they're early donors, you have to build that trust with them, and things like reporting back and thanking well is important for that, and also really differentiates you. So what are a few things we might have them do that they could do quickly, Jen, before we return to to our special other little fun participatory thing that we're going to do?
I mean, I think one of the things to ask yourselves is like, what are you actually asking for and what are you thanking people for? Because if you're on this kind of, again, back to Beth's hamster wheel, if you're on this hamster wheel of like, I'm approaching the year-end appeal and I'm going to ask people to give what they can so that they can get their tax receipt. So Canadians, I can get my tax receipt by year end. Like, that's not a reason to give. It may be the season to give, but that is not a reason to give. So if you're actually going to ask me to support your organization for something, tell me what I'm going to do. And then when I reach into my wallet or my Bitcoin or my little Robinhood satchel of whatever, thank me for being me. Don't thank me for what I gave. And I think one of the biggest exercises as you're heading into your year end is, what are you actually asking for? Because if you're asking for making your year end budget, that may be a reality for you, but can you please find a way to dress that up a little differently and tell me a story about why that matters, how it impacts one person? So like the core starts from the same place of, what do you really need? What are you asking for? And then what are you grateful for? Like, I could rhyme off a million reasons why I'm grateful for you, Beth, as a friend, as a colleague, as someone who I look to for inspiration and who I look to for moments of need. But if I just say, hey, Beth, thanks for being you, that's a little vacant, right? So how can we be more specific in the way we're asking, reporting, and thanking?
That's right. So we thought we'd do this little exercise because there's all kinds of talk about ChatGPT and, all sorts of AI. So we thought we'd do a little exercise. We don't actually have to fight, but we're going to have an EI versus all heart. And I would love you, everybody watching, to take a little moment and choose one of these. You're going to write a quick thank you. I'm going to go on to ChatGPT and see what they can barf out for us. He's very clever. And we're
why
going
is it always a he? It always is a he.
Oh, I call mine Chachi.
Oh, Chachi? Oh, that's a good one, actually.
Chachi. There was a show called Chachi Loves Somebody. Anyways, Joni Loves Chachi, I think it was. I'm very old. So you pick one of these. I'm going to try to do both. And maybe Jen will whisper some amazing things in your ear while we do that. I will stop share did everybody see that? I guess I should share again.
Yeah. Second window possibility.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to show you my typing, but anyway. All right.
So I spend a lot of my time in the compose a thank you letter to the donor, which is what Beth's highlighting here. Kind of, this is someone who's giving a medium to moderate gift, depending on the size of your organization. Again, it may be more significant to you. But how would you start that? Like if I'm sitting down, as I do with every project, we've had this campaign, it's out the door, it's in the wind, donors are giving. I sit down to write a response, and what do I start with? I never start with on behalf of. I actually try, and this is just my the little Gen Love game I play with myself. I try not to start with thank you. I try to start with something else, like your gift made my morning, or the birds are soaring higher today, or a kid has been fed because of you. So how do we start those conversations? Beth, what's ChatGPT telling us? Chachi.
In case you've never written a letter before, they also make sure you put the organization's logo or letterhead. Let me stop share of that and share this. Now, this is just a kind trigger warning that if you do not like tabs, I have a lot of tabs open. So just be aware. Okay, so it has your organization's letter, donor's full name, right? I hope this letter finds you well, which is kind of interesting. It's very
I mean, they're learning. The bots are learning.
And on behalf of company, this was the $250. I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude for your generous donation, which we don't feel, but I like the heartfelt gratitude. It warms our hearts to welcome you into our community of supporters, especially knowing that your contribution was made in response to our recent appeal through the mail, which is what I wrote.
That's very specific, Robot.
Yes.
Good job.
Every donation, irrespective of its size, like I would make it a little more conversational, plays a pivotal role in allowing us to further our mission.
Yeah, we can make that your gift, and every gift makes an impact, right?
Right.
Yes.
Your contribution is not just a gift of funds, but a testament to your belief. This is going pretty deep in our cause and desire to make a tangible difference.
Well, that's identity stuff, right?
Yes.
That's like, yes. I'm not thanking you for your gift. I'm thanking you for being you. Right. A testament. I mean, that's a bit religious and tangible. Yeah, it gets a bit funny, but they're robots. So
that's
good
right.
job, Robot.
That's right. And then they put, you need to put your specific goal, funding research for a cure, which is so true. We're committed to ensuring. So again, Jen and I would have I guess we are at such and such. We're committed to ensuring that every dollar is used efficiently. Now, I would not put this in, not because I don't use dollars efficiently and effectively, but because that sort of idea that it's only if it's 10 cents, administrative costs on the dollar. I think it really depends on the organization you're with. In the coming months, we'll keep you updated. That is good.
Makes a promise. Yep.
Yes. And the impact of your gift, exactly the phraseology I would use, and the lives it touches. Once again, thank you, Donors First Name, for choosing to support organization. It's actually better than I thought when we came.
It actually is. And we didn't, like, Beth and I decided to do this without testing the robot. So we haven't actually been testing it.
No.
I think one of the things, there's a few things that are interesting for me now that I'm looking at this.
Yeah.
One of them is that, like, we're committed to ensuring every dollar is used efficiently and effectively. Like, that speaks to trust and confidence, which we talked about which is part of the thank you letter checklist. Mm-hmm. But the piece that I find really interesting is, like, once again, thank you for choosing to support your generous help.
Yes.
Right? Like, so
that is donor psychology. Yeah.
That is donor psychology.
Right.
Totally.
The three key things you want to include are things that help with donor well-being or anybody's well-being is autonomy. I get to choose where I give. I get to choose what I do. Connectedness. I feel connected to this charity, to the charity leader, to the beneficiaries. One of many, but people like to feel connection. And competence. Competence is about I did the right thing. So by giving to Girl Scouts, I know I'm going to help girls become leadership or become important part of their community, whatever. So how you can blend those in, how you can use those in all of your donor communications by helping people feel connected, autonomous, making their own choices, and feeling like they did the smart thing, which is part of what you can come back with the report and the promise on, is really important. So actually, Chachi, you did a good job.
So Anne in the chat said letters very organization centered. Totally agree.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing, and Mary's saying everything from ChatGPT starts with that sentence, which is like, yes, totally. They're robots.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I hope for our robot overlords, it's that they're consistent. So that's a win. But the piece that I don't, so your cursor was above the end of this, Beth.
Yes.
Because I think that the end of a letter, and this is what I say in the checklist, which you'll get at the end, is this should be from someone. So like your name, your position or role. Yes, this should come from someone. And it actually should come from someone who is eager to hear from you. So I try to write thank you letters or notes or emails that come from someone who's like, I'd love to hear from you. Contact me now.
Yes.
This is my actual name. This is my, like, not from info at, or from hello at, or from
That's
birds,
right.
whatever. It's from a real person. I'm like, I'd love to talk to you. I'm eager and earnest about talking to you. So that's a piece that I think ChatGPT got wrong. And I know they're listening, so I'm sure they'll be corrected by the next time we do this. But the other thing is that this piece also doesn't say, in the thank you letter or thank you email, that's the place to say, here's our social media, here's our podcast, here's our YouTube. Like, please don't put that in your appeal. Put it in your thank you letter, because when someone's reading their thank you letter, they're like, oh, neat. I can listen to the Warblers podcast from Birds Canada, where I can hear about fascinating people who are doing bird research that I find delightful and endearing. That doesn't belong in the letter, but it does belong in the thank you. Follow us here, join the conversation here, listen to us here. Like, put all that stuff in your thank you. Because if you put it in your letter, people are going to be like, oh, neat. Tell me about this podcast. I'm curious about what's happening over here. So I think what ChatGPT missed was it's actually from a person to another person.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who writes it is actually interested in feedback, which is why I will always reject thank you letters that come from a board of directors or come from more than one person, because it's like, how can I be thanked by a committee? That sounds humiliating. I don't know how I could possibly be thanked by a committee. Being thanked by a person for who I am is what I'm looking for.
I would love to hear if people want to type in some of their opening lines, or you could type in your whole thing that you wrote, but just some of what you did. So don't put a QR code in the appeal. Well, Lori.
Oh, Lori.
Now, Jen, I feel like it's okay. I have put them in a small organization that's building donors to get mail in the mail. And if people want to give online, they can quickly QR it.
I'm going to do two things about QR codes, which Lori, I would be happy to talk about this, but my answer is make sure it's going to somewhere, like the QR code lands somewhere where someone can do something.
Yes.
Like not just your organization's homepage. And please evaluate it. Like, once you have that QR code on your reply form, look at how many people have clicked it, have gone through.
That's right.
That's it. Like, you're learning every time you do it. So if you're going to use a QR code, yes, do it, see what happens, but make sure it's going to some place where someone can be like, I'll do something about this. And that you can evaluate it and say, oh, 75 people clicked on our QR code and 0 people gave.
Right.
That's learning, versus 75 people clicked on our QR code and we got 70 donations. Then keep doing it. Please keep doing it for as long as you can.
That's right.
But measure it, evaluate it, and look at it.
Yeah, we have a couple. Mary Beth says her opening line was, Dear Mandy, I know you were new to Camp for All, but it feels like you're already a part of the family. Thank you for making our campers a priority in your giving. That's nice.
That's a great way to start.
Yes.
I would completely read the rest of that sentence. And then here's another one. I'm speechless. You're making an incredible difference for marine mammals. The orca project for other orcas will be successful because of your commitment. Thank you for choosing to support us with it. Yes, yes, Dale.
Yes.
Yes, Mary Beth. These are exceptional examples of, I'm talking about you. I'm not talking about your gift.
That's right. That's
Fabulous.
right.
Great ways to start. And I'm sure ChatGPT is listening and learning. We appreciate our kindness and generosity supporting kids in our community to attend STEM classes at Sloan Museum. Many of our kids would not be able to attend our world-class museum without your support. Yes. Yes. So Debbie, with love, we appreciate your kindness and generosity. Who's the we? Like who's at the end of this letter or conversation? So
make it an I.
We think about it as an I. And if it can't be an I, then at least there's an adjustment there to be made. Okay, Victoria, high name. You did something truly life-changing. You're giving a gift of resiliency community. Thank you for generous donation to empower the young people that need it the most, ... Yes. I love starting with high name. You're amazing. You're awesome. Your gift brightened our day. I can't believe how much a difference you're making right now. Yes.
One of the things I've talked about, and I'm sure you've heard me, Jen, is sometimes we use these thank you letters as kind of news. We got your gift. We're going to use
news.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And instead, you can make it more into the storytelling by, I've used the examples, and I'm not saying here they aren't good, but let's say the example of the Camp for All. I don't know what happens at Camp for All. I don't even know what Camp for All is, but next time you're in the region, I'd love you to come to Camp for All and see the kids. You start to put the images in their heads, or maybe it's not kids, maybe it's families coming together in new ways, or take them there with your painting the language with your words. I don't usually put images in a thank you letter, though I guess you could in an email more easily. What's your take on that, Jen?
Well, my take on that is that like every piece of communications that you're sending, whether it's an appeal or a thank you, should look like it came from one person to another. So something that's designed and laid out like it looks like it was done by something fancy, you lose me. But if you're sending me a thank you letter, and you know me, Beth, with the paper clips, if you put a paper clip on a letter with your tax receipt, for those of us who are still sending tax receipts by mail, a paper clip is a very specific, tangible thing, because not only does it say a human being was here, it also says, I'm curating this for you. So I love, with the small and medium-sized organizations that we work with, encouraging them to print a slam-in photo of the kids at camp, or of the new nature reserve, or of the food bank, and literally clipping it to the thank you letter to say, wanted to enclose for you a moment that you made possible. We're so grateful for your kindness and generosity. We're so grateful for who you are. So, and that's a different thing you experience it differently, even if, and in the print realm, if you get a letter in the mail that's kind of like puffy or like feels weird, unusual, you're going to open it first, because it's curated, like a paperclip or a Post-it note or anything that shows like a human being touched this. That's going to be over and above what your donors are experiencing from other organizations, right?
Remember, Simon worked with an organization that was helping adults who'd been sexually abused
as kids.
Maybe it was just men, but and he used to, when people wrote letters in, a letter, he would photocopy this part of it And, so you could see the writing of the person. You got a sense of who they were, and paperclip that on the top of the letter that might have I really appreciate the support I've given that, as a beneficiary speaking, writing, and those kinds of things, these tangible things, like you say, a paperclip's easy to get through the mail, it's not going to get mangled. So you can start putting any questions you have in. We do.
So I actually do see. So Debbie's saying, I usually say I agree. I ask them to say hello to me when they visit. Yes, Debbie, thank you for bringing that up, because a good thank you note or follow up will say like, hey, I'd love to see you if you're in the facility, or if you'd like a tour, or if I can show you where the sapsuckers are this time of year, let me help you with that. So yes. Thank you letters I like to use. Should annual appeals say we appreciate? Yes. I mean, saying we appreciate, but I appreciate.
No, it should be written by one person. So where I know there's a we about I work at the organization, yeah. But it should be as if you were writing it. So I appreciate that. You can say, I've done things like, I shared with my team about this exciting gift we just got from you, that has an immediacy. Yes. And there is a we that talks about me and the organization. But remember, you're bringing your donor in as a partner in that problem solving. So eventually the we will include them. So I just have you think about everyone or all the mammals of, I forget where you are, Monterey Bay or something. You can use that, but refer to that collective of what it is.
And Debbie said, thanks for the reminder, appeals should come from one person. Yes. And they should be thanked by one person too. Ideally, it's the same person. Sometimes that doesn't quite work, but ideally an appeal is from one person to another, and a thank you is the same. Katie asked, is there a real difference between a thank you call, letter, or email? Yes. When my phone rings and it says Beth Ann Locke, I will pick it up. That's not necessarily true if it says Canadian Diabetes Association, even if I just made a donation to the Canadian Diabetes Association. So this is an excellent question, Katie, which is a very deep well. And it's a conversation about doing what donors show you that they want versus what they tell you that they want. If you do a survey to your donors and say, do you want to receive recognition? Do you want to receive your mailing? Do you want to receive your stuff by print or by email? Everybody will say, don't thank me, save the money, and I want to receive everything by email. And your results will probably go into the toilet. So we have to take all of this information and insight and say, what are these donors telling me based on their behavior that they want, versus if I'm asking questions that then they're going to make an answer to that then is locked in forever, like that's a problem, right? So yes, there is a real difference between thank you call, letter, or email to that donor. And you have to look at both their pattern of behavior and what they tell you. And it's complicated and layered, just like all of us are.
But there's been testing done. So we talked about this when I was talking to John. So I think Bloomerang says that, well, first of all, the faster the thanking, the more donor retention you're going to get, and larger gifts. So one of the most the biggest studies that's been replicated many times was Penelope Burke's study about they had board members, so non-paid people from the organization. Board members call and thank within 48 hours of receipt of gift, and it increased the second gift by 39%, and the retention was like 43% higher. Bloomerang, which is a CRM database, measured people who did thank you calls. One thank you call within 90 days of a gift increases their almost by 50%. I could pull up the data, the amount of the next gift, and it almost halved the speed of the next gift. So for people who are asking more than once, I mean, so phone calling is great. surprise and delight your donors by coming from different channels. Finally, you'll find one that they don't really like, and then you can note that. But doing different things instead of the like if I'm always sending thank you letters, then do something else. If I'm always sending emails, try a letter, try a note card, try a phone call. You usually are doing the minimum or the next level over the minimum. So, and Food for the Poor did something where at the beginning of the year, they just sent an extra thank you. They had a pretty big database. I think they sent it to 200,000. Half the database got just a thank you letter for thanking them for being supporters, and the other didn't. And they got almost the same amount of donations, but they got something like 43% more gifts or giving money. The amount that was given was bigger. So it makes, that's why we want you to do something now to
think about it now. So Lisa Not Provided, which I think is a wonderful name, as someone from Jen Love. So Lisa Not Provided, is a thank you more impactful from the fundraiser rather than ED or chair of the board? I love this question, Lisa Not Provided, because the answer is in two ways. I would rather the thank you letter come from the person who's eager to hear from me. So if that's the fundraiser who says, I can't, thank you for your gift. Here's what we've done with your support. Call me at this number. If you have questions about your gift in action, about giving monthly, about a gift in your will, I would rather the letter come from someone who's actually going to respond to the person. If they're like, hey, I'd like to talk to this Jen Love, then you actually have my contact. I have a lot of clients who always want to put the name on the bottom of their thank you letter from the board chair. And my question is like, is your board chair really going to call back Dale, who's asking about maybe a gift in their will? No, the board chair doesn't know anything from anything. So
the board chair doesn't have access to the database.
The board, and frankly shouldn't. Yes. Right? Like, this is where we get into this fuzzy, moist middle ground of like, if a volunteer knows how much I've given and my history of giving, like, that's a little awkward. But the head of fundraising, I expect to know who I am and what I'm doing. So a question to ask when you're writing your thank you letter or thank you email is like, is this somebody who's going to be, and this is in the thank you letter checklist that we're providing in the slides, it's either from me and call me, or it's from me and like, hey, my friendly and helpful staff are eager to talk to you. You can reach them at. But if you're signing your thank you letters from a board chair who no one knows how to get a hold of, you're shouting into the void, as far as I'm concerned.
And I would say that hierarchical, the most important person thanking me is absolutely very 1950s. That is, hierarchy was really important, but that's not how the world is operating. I know. And I also, Jen, had a CEO, ED of an organization who wanted to sign every thank you letter. But they would sit on her desk for over a week. And it used to drive me bananas because I made the move from doing the fake signature, which I detest. But anyways, so
it should be somebody who's actually responsive. And if it's not somebody who's responsive, then build it into the letter to say, you can hear from get a hold of, the people on my team. Like, there's so many different ways that you can change that language to make it make sense to the reader, as opposed to make it make sense for you.
Or the mail merge or whatever. Yeah.
And I've had, so Beth, I was telling you about this experience I have. So I'm pretty proud of my gratitude checklist. Like, I feel pretty good about this, but for the first time in my life, I have raised money from a dead person from a thank you letter.
Preach, tell us all about it.
So this organization that I've worked with forever, environmental organization, they received a notification that somebody that had been giving to them for many years had passed away and had left a gift in their will. And they didn't know the details of how to get a hold of this person's executor because that's private, but they did get the notification from the lawyer. So they sent a letter to the lawyer to say, we're so sorry for the loss of your loved one. We're grateful for their generosity. I wanted to include a copy of the most recent annual report and a few highlights of what we're doing right now in terms of making sure that, the environment that you love and we care about is taken care of. And they got a response immediately from the executors saying, my loved one left 3 people in their will. You're the only organization who has actually reached out to us and made any effort to contact us. We are totally in control of how this estate is spent. You're getting 95. Those other 2 are getting 2.5% each. So you can even show gratitude to dead people and have it be lucrative. I just want this to happen for all of us. It's the low-hanging fruit.
Janice asked, how do we incorporate all these ideas? Well, it's true that emailing donors a thank you, you don't generally get a letter's worth of space. People will, but you can still authentic from one person. And Jen, I do PSs and emails, but what I do is, do I have here? Let's pretend this is a letter. I put the PS above my signature. So I'll have the last paragraph and then I'll say PS, blah, 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 like I would in a letter, and then my signature and name, because nobody will read underneath your name. So you can use that kind of mind tweaking with a PS. And do that, but you can still be authentic. You can recap, what the gift's going to do. You're probably just going to have it kind of more condensed, like a really good stock. You're going to kind of put all the best parts in there. And if you can get an extra thank you, if you could call donors before they get the next ask, if you could send out some kind of engaging, unusual appreciation to donors. Maybe it's a video. I've also done this where we've all done a video, like the team, thank you so much, and then sent that out. That kind of lift and excitement, because people are getting so many asks right now. Yes, they'll get one from your organization, but set yourselves apart by thanking them for what they've already done and how they've helped make your organization the change maker, the amazing, whatever you're doing.
Well, and Janice was asking, how can you incorporate all these ideas if we're contacting donors via email, not a mailed letter? You can't. I mean, emails suck. My inbox is a hot mess express. And I'm not, even if I got the most beautiful, beloved note from somebody in my email, chances are when I look at my email at the end of the day and I have 40 of them, delete is my best friend. So don't assume that a thank you email can do anything that you need it to do. Come on in, babes. Sorry, I have a kid who's heading off to work as a lifeguard. Here you go.
That's okay.
Your lesson plans.
Have fun. Save a life.
Puppy's right here. Yeah, sure. So don't, I guess my answer to that, Janice, which I know was a very like glib answer and is not fully thought out, but like, if all you're sending is an email, that's probably not enough.
I mean, I would, a lot of times people don't do postal mail because it's a higher expense than emails.
Yes.
But having something tangible that you hang on to it's a different experience than receiving an email. Emails used to be very novel back in the day, but now mail is novel. So
I know. And people, like, I look at my inbox with chagrin. I look at my mailbox with delight, because the things that come to my mailbox are actually things that I have asked for, I've consented to receive, I'm happy to receive. Yeah, hand-addressed mail is the best.
Yes.
I can't believe that in 2023, my best advice to fundraisers is like, get good stationery, find stamps. I have a constant set of stamps. Like, if anybody need Canadian stamps, because I can help you, because they're delightful. And people, when you receive that, it feels different. And I'm not saying that organizations should all go back to sending snail mail. You need to understand your organization and your donors. But like, I guess, Janice, back to the point, a like generic email that goes to everyone that comes from no reply at Canadian Diabetes Association.
Yeah.
That's an epic fail. Like, there's so much more you could do with that. Make it come from a real person, make it look like they are genuinely interested in hearing from you, invite personal contact, ask them to get a hold of you. Like, you can still make an email loving, you just have to do a lot more work.
Janice, are you saying you're contacting donors with the thank you email, or you're contacting them with an ask. That's not quite clear to me, because I mean, in the hierarchy of, there's a ladder of success related to asking. And of course, face-to-face is where you're going to have the most success. Letters are far down, but an email from someone they don't know. So if you're doing both. Okay.
Both.
So yeah, I mean, I know it's easy. I know you can merge them. I would just say we are all about adding the human into the better thanking experience. That's really what we wanted to do here. And to have you think about, if you can get together, even if you're, if everybody on the team, fundraising team, entire nonprofit, could spend 60 to 90 minutes, you can do a sample call, just calling and thanking people. They don't pick up, no problem. You still leave a thank you.
Lovely voicemail.
Yeah. Yes. And you can call me back at blah, 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 if you want. That means so much. And I've introduced that at the board I'm on at Vancouver Public Library. It's so shocking to board members to understand how grateful donors are that they have the chance to give and make a difference. If you want to have
and then it's joyful for everyone. Then they're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm actually, like, they don't have to, they can call. So one of the things that I do for board members, Beth, and I think I learned this from Shannon and you at Gratitude Camp, is using a Mad Lib.
Yes.
So people, if you're doing a thank you call, you don't want to have a script, because it sounds like, oh, hi, this is Jen calling from the Vancouver Library, and thank you for your gift of $50 to the contemporary women's fiction section. It just sounds so dull. But if you do it as a Mad Lib and have the board member or the staff member who's phoning to say, dear name, thank you for your, could be a adjective, for your gift to something specific. Here's how we're going to use your donation. There are so many ways you could make even voicemail calls or emails more human and more genuine.
Let me see if I can share this just a second. I'm just going to share that Mad Lib thing. So this is basically what Shannon put together. And I do say some people are great at ad-libbing. They do sales, they get it. Some people are rule followers. They want to have what I should say and how I might do it until they feel comfortable. So recognize that there's both kinds of humans in the world that you might be working with on the board or elsewhere. So this is her little thing. If you want to grab a screen grab of it, you can do that, or I can possibly include it in our thing. I can do a screen grab of that and put it in. But just give them the stepping stones to get there. Yeah. Because the kind of joy that they're going to experience when they have a great call with a donor, or even they get feedback later. Not everybody will take the call. So I know we've gone a little bit past the top of the hour. I don't know where all the time went. Do we have any other Q&As or comments? Where's the chat? We good with chat? Well, Jen, now I need to put on the other one so I can give you your names and addresses or emails. Bonk. Oh, I also had this little thing I wanted to say was, you cannot underestimate how much people love the things they love, which is often what your nonprofit is doing, and value the things that connect with their values. That for me is the thing we should all understand about donors. So let me just go, where the heck is that? Here, bonk. And then get down. There we go. So there we are. You want to drop us a line? Good old Jen, Agents of Good. Good old me, Beth Ann at the Fundraiser Coach. And I don't know, it's been fun chatting with people and letting you know that a little bit of gratitude goes a long way. Making that connection increases giving. Authenticity is one of the things that's just missing in this world.
Yeah. And I think, so Beth and I will be together in San Diego in a few weeks at the storytelling conference. And one of the things that I want to leave everybody with, and I'm still working on how I'm going to work this into my presentation. So don't tell them at the storytelling conference that I'm still behind on this, but aren't you curious? about the people
Yes.
who give to you and like what motivates them and why they care. And every moment that you have a gift come in, whether it's to your annual appeal or whether it's a memorial gift or whether it's a monthly gift, like my instinct is always to be like, cool, what's going on with you? So
Yeah.
I think fundraisers can cultivate more curiosity around like, huh, that's neat. I wonder what motivates this person. And I think if we, even if you can't do it for every donor because we're busy and it's complicated, but if you could do it for one a day, you'll learn a ton. Like you'll learn a ton from calling people who just spontaneously give. Hey, I saw you gave to the cat rescue today. Tell me what's going on with you. That's going to be the best call you'll make as a fundraiser. And it's probably going to be the best call that donor gets. So
Yeah.
cultivate your own curiosity about gratitude. Go
Yeah.
forth.
Yes. Go forth and multiply the gratitude.
Yes. Yes.
Thanks, everybody. We'll be sending out the replay soon and the slides so that you have access to that.
Yay.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.